what I remember is essentially being exposed to every subconscious fear and false belief that I had ever been taught. So I was exposed to all of those things at once in a warehouse setting, and I was extremely fearful. The presence of God was there, but I was too afraid to look at it. And if I can back up, my idea of God is very different today than it was prior to my accident. Um, Hi, good morning. My name is Michelle Ledbetter. I am a registered nurse. I'm a hospice nurse. I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, and I'm a near-death experience survivor. Today, I am super excited about sharing my story because I think that when we share stories, we recognize the connection that we all have. So I'm going to be very transparent in that this is just my second time that I'm speaking about it. I'm on the heels of my anniversary. It happened on February 14th, 2019. And it's taken me a minute to get to this place because I didn't have the traditional beautiful lights and feeling of love when I went through my altered reality. And it has taken me a while to unpack it. It's taken me a while to even look at it because it was kind of frightening for me. So here I am. And I am so honored to be able to share this with you because what I've learned from it myself has just changed my life and my perspective on life in general. So I have written what I'm going to say down just because I want to make sure I capture the essence of everything that I felt and have come to know since that experience. So if you're there, bear with me, I'm going to go ahead and read this to you. So on February 14th, 2019, it began like any other day. I was living life as I always had, busy, striving, and carrying the weight of an unspoken, unconscious fears. Deep down, I believed I wasn't worthy of love. I was afraid of abandonment, and I often felt disconnected from the world and people around me. These beliefs had been with me for as long as I can remember, but I rarely stopped to question them. Then the accident happened and everything changed. I was pulled into what I can only describe as an altered reality, and it was terrifying. It was as if every false belief I had ever carried about myself, the unworthiness, the fear, the smallness, it came rushing to the surface all at once. I felt exposed, vulnerable, and completely out of control. In those moments, I did sense what I now know to be God. He was there waiting, offering me a glimpse of something far greater than my small self. Oh man, but I was too afraid to look at it. I clung to the belief, those false beliefs, for so long, and I couldn't imagine that there was anything more. It was a reckoning, and I wasn't ready to face it. Even as I resisted, God didn't pull away. He gently guided me toward the truth. 6 years later, it's been an unfolding. So slowly I began to see that the fear I was feeling wasn't meant to harm me, it was meant to awaken me. What I now understand is that God uses every opportunity and every situation and every event in our lives to shape us into the people that we're meant to be. He takes our brokenness and transforms it into beauty if we allow it. He takes our struggles and turns them into strength if we can see it that way. I began to see the accident as frightening as it was. It wasn't a punishment, it was an invitation. It was God's way of saying, it's time to let go of the lies. It's time to remember who you are. And as I opened myself to that truth, everything shifted. One of the most powerful realizations that I had is that I nor you are separate from God, from life force energy, from universal love, from universal consciousness, whatever you want to call that, that breathes through all of us. We are all connected in that. I am an extension of that, just as you are. The best way I can explain it is with an analogy that I love, and it's called the ocean and the wave. So if you can picture the ocean, it's vast and it's infinite, it stretches beyond what we can see, but each wave that rises is unique and beautiful. We're never separate from that. We just rise from it. When the waves falls, it doesn't disappear. We simply return back to it. This is how I see myself and all of us. We are waves rising from the ocean of God's love, experiencing individuality for a time, but always coming back to the source. It is an expansion back into the fullness of who we are once you get this realization. After the accident, I didn't immediately step into an understanding. At first, I struggled deeply. I turned to alcohol and pain medications, desperate to escape the pain of what I was feeling. I wanted relief, but the harder I tried to control my reality, the more disconnected I felt. It wasn't until I completely surrendered and until I stopped trying to fight against life and started stepping into its flow that I began to find freedom. I realized that I didn't need to numb my pain. I needed to listen to it. I didn't need to control my life. I needed to trust it. God was using everything, the accident, the pain, the struggles. It all was meant to lead me back to myself. And as I let go of the need to guide the waves and step into the flow of life, I began to feel a peace that I've never known before. There are three main takeaways from my experience that this journey has taught me about life. And that is, life is not random or meaningless. Every moment, every challenge, and every joy is part of a greater plan to help us grow into the people that we're meant to be. I've learned that we're not separate from God. We are the waves rising from the ocean in his love, here to express our independence, our individuality, experience life, grow, and return. 2, surrender brings freedom. When we stop fighting against life and start trusting its flow, we find peace. And finally, God is always guiding us. Even in our hardest moments, he uses every experience to shape us into our best version of ourselves. So thank you for letting me read that. As far as my accident, I am a hospice nurse and I was traveling at the time from Montana trying to get to a new assignment in Texas. I was trying to outrun a snowstorm, and I ended up having a car accident. When I first had the car accident and they found me, I had a sense of profound peace the whole time, but I didn't even recognize that until just, I can't even tell you, maybe 6 weeks ago when I realized that that peace was always there, but I was so focused on the fear that I missed it. I missed that God was there holding me the whole time. So I had absolutely no fear when I was wheeled into the hospital. They told me that I was going to have urgent surgery. I broke my back and I had a traumatic brain injury. But I was able to engage and I was feeling so much peace. The people that helped me through this time, I was by myself with my little dog. They were human angels on earth. The nurse, they were talking about impounding my dog. And I said, please don't do that. And one of the nurses didn't know me. She took that puppy and she kept it until I was able to recover and get out of the hospital. So I started to see the divinity in people at that point in time. When I went into surgery is when I had my altered reality experience. And I'm not sure how long it lasted, days. I was in ICU, but time is kind of elusive in that realm. What I remember is essentially being exposed to every subconscious fear and false belief that I had ever been taught and assumed as real. So my not being good enough, my just, kind of fighting and doing the grind of life. I was living it. I mean, if you saw me from the outside, I was living a pretty productive life, but inside there was still something always missing. And I couldn't quite put my finger on it. So I was exposed to all of those things at once in a warehouse setting. And I was extremely fearful. The presence of God was there, but I was too afraid to look at it. And if I can back up, my idea of God is very different today than it was prior to my accident. I now understand that God is that life force energy that is all around us and all consuming. I didn't necessarily know that then. So as I am moving through this, I was so afraid that when I looked up, I saw the tiles of this warehouse lifting and a light was coming through. But in my mind, I was thinking it was lava. I was thinking it was something that was going to come in and burn me. And so I was just like, oh my gosh, bend over and hold my knees. And I hope it doesn't hurt. It was very, very frightening. And I believe, being a hospice nurse now, I believe that there's a lot of people move through that in the early parts of transition before they get to that light. It is, we call it terminal agitation. And so while I was in ICU, I had to be monitored by a person because I was acting out my fears and trying to get out of bed and trying to escape and that sort of thing. And it was very an in and out sort of experience as far as the fears that would come, the things that I would see. I so wanted help, but I didn't know how to ask for it. I did not speak of this for the longest time because I didn't want people to think that I went to hell. And I honestly thought that I had gone to hell. I thought that I had gone to hell. And so it took me a few years to unpack it. As I read, I dipped into, alcohol and pain medication to try and numb, because numbing it meant I didn't have to look any closer at what that was trying to reveal for me. But as it took me about 2 years really to start to really turn to it and look at it and say, what was this trying to teach me, instead of being that victim to what had happened. And as that started to blossom and I started to let go and I started to ask the questions on what did that specific feeling of abandonment when I saw my children leaving me in this burning building, what was that trying to teach me? What was that representing for me? And it was that I was so disconnected from my source. I was so disconnected from the love within. I didn't even actually know what true love was. And I don't think I'm alone in that. I thought it was more of an engagement and an exchange sort of thing. But now I know that we are an extension of that love, and it's within us, and life is happening for us to find it, to embrace it, and to stop looking for the validation outside, because that's what I was doing. I was hoping that people were seeing me live this great life, but quietly underneath, I was afraid. It is within each and every one of us. We are an extension of God's source energy. We are a part of that. We can't be separate from it. And to tap into it is I don't even have a word. It is the most heavenly experience, and you can live it every single day. I recognize that our emotions are our internal guidance given to us by life. And if we're feeling anything on a negative vibration of, scarcity, fear, jealousy, any of those negative vibration feelings, that's essentially life saying, you're looking at this the wrong way. And if you can move up the vibrational scale and connect to that life source love energy that's within you and look at it through the eyes of love, you can see the lessons that are right there before us in every event, in everything that is unfolding in your day. You can see how, where before I might have wanted to defend where I stood on a certain topic because I needed to be right for my own validation, and for other people to think that I knew what I was talking about, I was still in a defense mode, of trying to get my point across. And now I just see that that defense was a protection mode. And now I can just be vulnerable to people. I can be vulnerable to life. I can wake up each morning and say, what is it that you're going to teach me today? When the hardships come, I totally see that I'm not in control here. There's something more going on. And if I can sit back and just trust life, trust God, it will come to me in a way that just releases any kind of negative vibration that's held in any moment of discord. So the gift that I've received is there isn't too much that can upset me for longer than 5 minutes, because I'm able to flip it into a new way of seeing. I'm able to flip it into looking at it through the eyes of love, and looking at it not as a place of defending my stance in this world, but opening myself to people and seeing them for who they are. And sometimes you see the boo-boos that people present to you when they're arguing with you or they're fighting for their limitations. And all you can do is just hold a sacred space for them, because I also know it's not my purpose to necessarily drive people into seeing it this way, but I can hold space for people so that they can feel confident and feel loved and embraced, even if I'm not saying anything to them, but just hold that space for people to see that there's a different way to see this if you're willing to look at it as far as any kind of conflict or confrontations. So, although I dipped my toe into hell, it was my own personal hell. And I think a lot of us have that. I think a lot of us grew up believing to fear God and that we had to live in a certain paradigm in a certain way to be accepted, but that's not true. Life wants us to be our unique individual self, that wants us to be that special wave. And we are always attached to that ocean, to the love of God, to God, no matter where we are in the journey. I look at this now as I have closed my eyes to an old reality and opened my eyes to a new reality that I did not even know existed. I had no idea it was available. But now that I've stepped into that, the next level, I am confident it's just about closing our eyes in this reality and opening our eyes into a new reality, which many people call heaven. And I actually think you can kind of feel that here and now. So that's my story. And thank you for letting me share it.